Hey y'all, check this out. I got a story I want to tell you. There's this guy down south that lived in southern Georgia, and his name was Roy. And old Roy, he come up with a great idea. He's one of these guys that like to go out and he dig around in the ground, the dirt and roots and what forth. And he is looking for things. He'd like to find stuff like coins and diamonds and lost watches and rings and such like that. And so he got pretty good at it, and he's finding quite a bit of stuff, and he was having problems because he'd get down in some of those spots in between them old roots and around them old rock crevices and stuff in that Georgia clay, and he's having trouble breaking his tools, and so he finally decided that what he was going to do is he's going to try to maximize his effort and save the money that he was using on buying these old cheap tools. And he got with this dude at a machine shop, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna make something." And old boy said, "Well, what are you looking for?" And he told him, and he said, "Man, we can make it." So they got together and they found them some good high carbon steel, and they got out the torches and the welders and the grinders and so forth. And I mean, they really put a lot of work and effort into it. And when they got done with it, is a little old shovel about the size of a spoon, and so he called it the micro shovel. Well, he used it and used it. Man, it was working like a charm. He could chip away around them rocks and all them old roots and things and not break his tools. And he was just so proud of it. He thought, boy, this can just really benefit the world if I put this micro shovel on the market. And so he got with somebody and they got to manufacturing it, and he got him together a good advertisement campaign. And he put it out there, and man, lo and behold, to his surprise, people just went crazy over that micro shovel. I mean, they were buying them up by the cases, and he was starting to see them in stores for sale, and people were just grabbing them up, and he was gaining all the profit that he could off of it, and just really doing good. And all of a sudden, the sales started dropping out, and he began to hear people kind of grumbling and complaining about the micro shovel, and so he started getting calls, and he started as he was fielding these calls, people were wanting refunds. And so he was recording the data that he was getting on the complaint calls, trying to figure out what was the cause of it. And they called together some of the local boys. Roy sat down with Bubba and Jim Bob and Joe, and they were looking at these things, and they realized that there was something in common. That most of the complaints they were getting was because of injuries. And so, as they perused the list of injuries, they were finding out that there was a lot of people talking about they had cuts on their lips and they had gouges in their gums and their tongues were sore and they chipped up their teeth and just a lot of crazy stuff. And so, they decided that they was going to sit into investigating how that they were getting injured like this with this micro shovel that they had tested and field proven and all of this, and just didn't have any problems. So they got to calling some of these folks back and asking them just exactly what they were doing, and they found out that what they were doing was they was using the micro shovel to eat cereal and to eat soup, and when they'd sit down with a bowl of ice cream, they was using the micro shovel. And so finally, Roy decides he's going to put out a commercial on the television so that he can handle the problem with these injuries that's occurring from the micro shovel. And he gets on there and he's doing the very best he can to explain this to be satisfactory to the people and the public. And he says to the folks that he said, "We created the micro shovel and it was field tested to do exactly what it was created for. We designed it with the finest craftsmanship that we could find here in South Georgia, and we hunted up some of the best high carbon steel that we could find and metals. We had it manufactured to exacting tolerances, and then we had the edge on it filed and sharpened to razor sharp perfection. And in all of our testing, it did exactly as we created it to. But the problem that you're facing is that you have decided to go against the recommendation of the creator for the intended purpose and uses of the micro shovel, and you are trying to turn the micro shovel into a spoon." Wow. You stop and think about that. That sure does sound crazy, doesn't it? But I was thinking about that as I was studying in the Word of God through the creation of the human race, and more specifically to the creation of the males, the men of our species. And I found out in looking at that a lot of the truths that we hear in this story, this fable about Roy and the micro shovel, parallel the creation of men. You see, I want you to understand something. God has created in his creation the males of the human race, certain things that are precious things that he's engineered to him. God gave them qualities to be leaders. He gave them temperaments to be warriors, to protect their families and to have fortitude and grit, so that they could work day in and day out to support the needs of their family. He put it in their heart to have emotions and feelings that they could relate to their children and their wives and to love them. He gave them all different kinds of talents and treasures and emotions and design. And it was well thought out and it was well planned. But in our day and time, society has decided that they don't like the role model of a godly man that was blueprinted by the very creator of the universe. And so we have tried to tame them down. We've tried to subdue them. We have tried to reckon with them in such a ways to convince them in our society that men are simply like women, except they look a little different. They have more whiskers, and we have tried to tame literally the warriors that God created. Men, I want to speak to you about something just for a minute. The Bible tells us that we're to be strong and we're to act like men. The Bible tells us we're to be leaders in our homes, in our churches, in our communities. The Bible tells us that we're to defend those who can't defend themselves, and we're to carry the message of Jesus Christ. The Bible tells us we're to teach and preach the generations that we live in and those that will live after us what the Word of God says and hold them to the standard of truth. The Bible tells us that we should defend it at all cost and never back down. So I challenge you out there as men, as males, as men who don't yet know God and men who already lay claim to God, that we would be uncompromising and unwavering in our commitment to what our creator and our designer engineered to us. It's my hope and it's my prayer that this little fable, this little story about Roy and the micro shovel maybe touches a nerve in you, and it wakes you up to see that a lot of the problems that we have in our communities and in our homes and in our world that we live in today are easily remedied if men will get back to the original design that God created us for, to stand strong, to be loving warriors for truth and decency and defenders of those who are defenseless, to wake up every morning with grit and fortitude, to go to work and to support our families and to take care of them, and to never back down from what the Word of God says, because the Word of God is the truth under which our Creator and our Designer made us, and He holds dear to us, and we should to them. God bless you. Be encouraged.